There's a lot going on our military installations with the military and with the surrounding communities. Some of the military training is just that. It's training for national defense purposes. But summits like this give us a chance to listen to some true experts and to try and look at what we've done very well, what concerns we might have, and where we think we ought to be going into the future. There's a summit, this one today, and there will be 3 more summits like this. One in Jacksonville, one in Goldsboro, one in Fayetteville. And they will be doing the same thing, looking at the military installations they have, looking at the community, the involvement, the impact, and how we in fact can have a better future. The governor will then hold a summit in the end of September, at which time they'll pull all of the things that we learn at each of these summits and thoughts of our staff and thoughts from some of you, and try to really lay out a good roadmap for the future. She understands the importance of the military to North Carolina. She understands the importance of taking care of the Marines, sailors, and the families that are at Cherry Point. She has been a strong supporter of the military for a long time. It is my pleasure to introduce Governor Bev Perdue.
Thank you. It's good to be home. I slept in my own bed last night, so y'all gave me an excuse to come. Lane Marshall's here, the Secretary of State. Thank you. I've been greeted by the mayor. Thank all of you. And thank all of the friends and neighbors in the whole region, not just Craven County and Havelock and neighboring, but around the district, because this military base affects all of us. At least 7 counties have tremendous interest in the employment numbers at FRC East. We know that this is the glue that holds our eastern part of North Carolina together. It's as critical to me as any other industry in the state. And as you know, I have spent a great part of my life and energy since I got into public service, making sure that folks around the world know that North Carolina is the most military-friendly state in America. We do that every day, and that's why we're here. And those questions are preeminent and should occupy a lot of our conversation today. And I'll tell you why. I've been told, you can never count for long what you're told. So don't take it to the bank, but I have been told by folks who probably have reason to say the truth, that there may never be another huge BRAC in America. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, and we in North Carolina have done extraordinarily well on BRACs, and so that may be a good thing or a bad thing for North Carolina. But in the discussions that I've had in Washington with folks in Congress and in the Senate and also at the Pentagon, it's become apparent to me that until there is a BRAC, if one ever occurs again, there will be a continual analysis of the missions of every base in the country and of the federal workforce associated or affiliated with those bases. And it's also incredibly apparent, I believe, to us in North Carolina that we have to do what we've always done. And I learned it right here in this community, because this community has always been eager and striving to prove that FRC East, the old depot that I still fall back upon calling it, has always had to prove year after year that their workers are better than any workers in the country or the world, and that we need these missions here in this community and in this state. And I believe it's incumbent upon all of us, and that's why we're doing these series of 4 summits, to have it, and then the one big giant summit to focus individually on the bases and the base communities and hear from local leaders and community leaders and military leaders. Thank you, Colonel, for being with us today. I've come upon us to focus down and to drill down on what are the core strengths of our bases and our workforce and our communities. What is it that we do really well? And to be very honest with each other, what is it that we need to do better? That's how we in North Carolina have always succeeded with BRACs, and I believe it's the only way we can succeed if the whole process of analysis of what state and what community gets what military installation in these very desperate, finite times with fiscal dollars. If there's going to be picking and choosing about base missions and locations of equipment and airplanes and servicemen and women, we want to be sure that people in the country, the leaders that make all these decisions, understand that North Carolina can do it better. We will invite our congressional leadership and we will take roll at the final military summit to see who's here, because we want to be sure that Congress understands as clearly as we do in these communities how important it is to have strong, healthy military personnel and civilian personnel to make sure that our state's economy is good, but equally more so, it's important that folks around the world feel this sense of national security that comes from only having a strong military. And as there is this emphasis on cutting back in Washington, we all need to be cognizant and powerful and organized to say don't eat the seed cord that protects America around the world when you're trying to find savings. And so today is all about that. Now we've stood up some things as a result of my work with you and our work together across North Carolina. We've created a North Carolina Military Foundation and a North Carolina Military Business Center, and we've been very successful in trying to grow the defense sector of the military economy. And I hope some of that will be discussed here today, because for our civilian community, outside of the civilian workforce affiliated with the base, it's really important that we continue to fight for those federal business dollars that come down to contractors and subcontractors across the state. And I'm real proud of the fact, since we took this on in 2005 with the leadership from right here in this community, we've seen defense spending in North Carolina grow from $2 billion to $3.6 billion. And that's not chump change. That didn't just happen because somebody in Washington sprinkled military defense dollars on the heads of North Carolina. It happened because of leadership from folks like you. It's also really important to us, and important to me as the governor of this great state, and I thank you for that privilege, that you, with your relationships around the state, whether it's in chamber meetings or whether it's Lee K and county commissioners organizations, whatever business, whatever your organization is, that you continue to emphasize that the military bases may all be housed along the I-95 corridor, east of I-95, that they might be physically present here in the east, but the bases and the prowesses of the defense dollar permeates all of North Carolina. It is not just an eastern North Carolina business cluster. This belongs to us as a people. And nothing makes me happier as I sit down and I relate it to you one more time. I'm obviously involved in the business community and strategic planning of nearly every major community and coalition of smaller communities in the state. And I was part of helping Charlotte, that whole Triad, Piedmont area, that whole cluster up there, the 12 counties, at a strategic planning mission, focus on what their 4 criteria clusters were going to be for the first 20 years of the 21st century. I wasn't surprised to hear financial services. I wasn't surprised at all to see an energy cluster, which is becoming really powerful for North Carolina. I wasn't surprised to see an engineering cluster around science and technology anchored by NASCAR and what we can do there with other businesses with the technology. I'll have to tell you, it took my breath away when they decided that their 4th cluster, as important as all the other 3, including the banks, is military defense cluster. They understand the power of the defense dollar in North Carolina, and they, as a result, now have 26 companies that have contracts, huge contracts, with the Defense Department. So this business belongs to all of us, and we in the East have got to be equally aggressive. I thank you for being here today. I hope that when you leave, you'll be able to say this was a well-invested 3.5 hours of my time, that you won't feel like you wasted your time. The team in Raleigh is blown away by it, but I'm going to stay at all 4 of these summits. I feel really strongly about this. It's up to us, y'all. I just talked to some of the personnel who work at FRC East, and we were honest about it. It's like a dripping faucet. If there's not going to be a big bribe. And maybe there will, and maybe there won't. But right now, we don't know of any intended bribe. It's like a dripping faucet. There will be those who look at each piece of our base economy, and there will be those who try to capture it and move it somewhere else. All of the discussion that we're having about planes and missions around F-18 or F-35s. It is so important for us to be organized and vigilant. I'm not at all hesitant to say we can fight stronger and better than any state in the country. We have branded ourselves as the most military-friendly state in America, and that didn't just happen. It happened because people like you in every base community in North Carolina stood up and partnered. You did the legwork, the grunt work, the emails, the calls. You harassed the congressional delegation. That's what it takes. And instead of doing it just once every 5 or 6 years, as we've been accustomed to, the faucet will continue to drip. And we're going to have to do it every week, every month, every year. And we're going to have to be vigilant, because in this time of depleted resources, and you're watching what's going on in Washington just like I am, and worried about the country and other bond ratings. In this time of depleted resources and fiscal choices, it's going to be the one whose wheel isn't squeaking that's going to be cut. And I refuse to let that happen to this state and to these communities. So armor up, suck it up, get ready for battle. It's going to be long, it's going to be relentless, but it only can be done if we partner here together. Thank you.